people don't line it up.
I think that's fair.
Next item will be item 6C. We consider electing a mayor for the upcoming year.
Mayor, in keeping up with our tradition of rotating Mayor Pro Tem, I nominate Sydney Baden as our Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, we're going backwards. We have a motion and a second for the electing Councilmember Baden as Mayor Pro Tem for the upcoming year. Any questions or comments over that? Councilmember Baden, you'll fill in if I have any duties I can't fulfill or meetings I can't make, so. Thank you very much. Mayor votes aye. Councilmember Baden. Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Hyde.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tice. Do you have a name tag? Or they all rotate?
Do you still have yours?
I think I saved you some money.
Like,
I'll probably still call
you
here.
have yours? I'll bring one in a minute.
Yeah.
One in there.
I'll just leave it in there.
Item 6D will be discuss the process of future agenda items for using gross economic development funds to build and pay debt service for a new fire station.
Mayor and Council, we have Lance Fox here tonight to kind of walk us through this process. A lot of the laws have changed since, I guess, 25 years ago when the city first put these funds toward the wastewater plant. And right here, and he's going to kind of walk us through it and then answer any questions the council may have.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Lance Fox. I'm your bond attorney out of Beaumont, and been working with the city for a long time now. Truly appreciate that relationship and feel honored and privileged to be here and serve with you. Pure coincidence, I'm right next door to Mr. Black in the same building, so I see him most daily. But anyway, city manager had asked us to come tonight and briefly discuss kind of the process if you go forward with this project using these tax revenues from the Economic Development Corporation, and that is now authorized. It's really a question for the Economic Development Corporation, what they can and cannot finance with these types of sales tax proceeds, and they are governed by the Economic Development Corporation Act, which is now part of the Texas Local Government Code, and it's a Type B corporation, as I understand. And so they have expanded the authority of the types of projects that they can now use. So if the board of directors of the Economic Development Corporation approves this type of project and it doesn't call for a vote of the citizens, then it is okay. And so the process is there's a special statute in the Development Corporation Act that authorizes the use of these proceeds for public safety facilities and other types of municipal owned projects and buildings, as long as the board of directors of that corporation finds that that project will promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises within the city that either create or retain jobs. So that board would have to make that finding that this type of facility would do that. And I don't think that's a hard finding to make for a fire safety type facility that would help promote the citizenship and the community and public safety and new business and so on, but that would be a required finding. And if the corporation was going to use the proceeds for this type of project, it would have to publish notice in the newspaper and conduct a public hearing, and there cannot be more than 10% of the citizens petition for a vote on the use of the proceeds for that project. If you get that petition, then you'd have to put it for ballot for the voters. So you've got that. This is something similar to that cities and economic development corporations have partnered on various types of projects in the past, the water plant, other types of kind of public tax projects that benefit the local community. And the process will depend on, ultimately, if the city goes forward, what types of obligations the city chooses to issue to actually finance the project. Traditionally, probably you've issued certificates of obligation to finance other projects. That's the most common type of financing that you would work with your financial advisor. You would make that decision, and it has to do with going into the market, marketing those obligations, figuring out what's going to get you the lowest rate of borrowing and so on. So those types of obligations typically are secured by your underlying taxing authority, but then in setting that tax rate each year, you can take into account any other revenues and sources of monies that are coming into the city on how much you have to need to pay the debt service on those obligations. And so what you see other cities and their EDCs do is they will enter into a contract where the city would contract to build this facility, maintain it, finance it, so on. And in exchange for that, the EDC would contract to pay over these revenues to the city for this type of project. And then that would be underlying source of payment. But anyway, it's pretty simply done as long as the board of directors of your EDC does make that finding, and whether or not you have to put it on the ballot or not. So, in a nutshell, that's the process. Any questions about it?
I have one. Do y'all have a ballpark figure of what they're looking for to borrow?
Right now, the chief and I, it's hard to say, but I would say, chief, between $5 and $6 million. Is that a pretty fair estimate?
Somewhere around 6, yeah.
Yeah, probably closer to the $6 million range. We'll know more once we put the architect on it, and the architect will do some preliminary, and you can get a much better figure, a much more solid figure.
Exactly. And if it did come in at roughly 6 million, what would be the payback time?
Let's just assume that it was 2.5% interest rate on the bonds for 25 years, about 300 and, let's see, I wrote it down here, just give me a second. Yeah, $325,000.
And we could fund that usually with the...
Right now, we have about $400,000 a year that's not earmarked, that is no longer going to the sewer plant debt service.
Okay. So a 25-year loan, roughly.
Yes, sir. And here again, it depends on the interest rate, and there are some other costs
You can
involved.
structure that at the time and figure out what the market conditions, what's your best bang for the
I'm just
buck.
wanting a close
Yes, sir.
ballpark figure.
What was one of those more
20.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's the amount?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I know it's 20 year, what was the amount?
No, the sewer plant
Sort of like,
was 20-year loan.
I know, how much was it? Well, we didn't have any great success with that.
I wasn't here, but it took about $400,000 a year from debt service, from the EDC, as well as funds from the actual revenues that we got from selling water and sewer. So
I think it was
it was probably closer to 10 or 11 million dollars.
12,000. I mean, 12 million.
I would have those records, I just have to follow up top of my head. I have all the transcripts, and you can provide that to the city manager, and he will
Right.
distribute that information.
Yeah, I know you and I emailed a little bit, but I want to be real clear. So we had 500,000 debt that we were still paying out of EDC.
No, we're not paying any, we're paying no debt whatsoever right now at EDC. The debt that we have now, we're paying with our property tax. We have about 6 cents of property tax that's dedicated to debt service, and that's to pay for the police station and some of the other things that we've bought over time that were already here before you became a council member
Okay.
and before I was even a city manager.
Okay.
So right now, there is nothing earmarked. The debt service, the EDC funds are not